Welcome to Dig on America, where we speak truth to power. Every week, we give you the dig on how American history, policies, and media created the social and political issues we face today. DOA is independent media supported by listeners, but they'll tell you we're just fake news, deep state propaganda, funded by George Soros, the Clinton Foundation, BLM Marxists, and...
I think it's obvious. Delvin Cox. Delvin Cox is a filthy supporter of such filth as this network.
That's true. I'm going to go with the Mystery Inc. gang, the Scooby Gang, sponsoring the show today.
Well, I'm going to go with Marjorie Taylor Greene because she supports everything we say on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you got to be so profane?
You know, I joined Truth Social recently because it's the best.
Did you really counterintelligence?
Yeah, to troll it. And
copycat.
Tulsi Gabbard is like liking and retruthing.
Oh my gosh. The rebrand was crazy. Like her rebrand was like crazy.
She went faster than Candace Owens.
I didn't think she was gonna go full on like nuts, and then she did, and then I just thought like, is this the same lady? Like,
nope.
Yeah,
I don't know, or that's who she always was. But anyway, I'm Jason Dutch.
She always was.
That guy, that's Mikey Famine. That there,
hola,
the good-looking one, not me. I'm the other good-looking one, right? That is Attorney Anna, who's all worried about like that her hair's not right today. She looks.
That's
fine.
not what I said. I said, do I have a big forehead? And now that we have 3 others, do I have a big forehead, y'all? Because like when you have the ring light just shining directly on,
do not
want to
answer.
get too much lost time in space. You know,
we'll let.
I'm just asking.
Jessica might be able to.
Your edges are great.
I'm not.
Thank you. I worked on them with a toothbrush.
I'm not touching that question. But with us today, we have 2 really awesome guests for the entire show. Over from our friends over at the Young Turks Network, we have Jessica Burbank, a fellow LA-ian here with me. And she is with us for the entire show. So Jessica, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
So great to be on.
Awesome. Well, we will focus on you a little bit more in the second half. In the first half, we have an election to win. So we're going to introduce our primary serving guest for the first hour. Mr. Chris, or actually, I'm sorry, not Mr. Dr.
Man,
Chris
you better
Jones.
put some respect on his name. You better recognize.
I've always wanted to interrogate you, Dr. Jones.
I'm nervous.
Oh my God, he should have a whole campaign video as Dr. Jones.
You should.
But it's Indiana. Hey. Do it. I'll get someone. That's Kickstarter.
Arkansas Jones.
Yeah,
Arkansas Jones.
Just play
pretty good.
Play the theme music backwards so that it doesn't trip up Google. Mikey will put it together for you.
I was about to say, dude, I can hook you. I can make my own version that I own and they can't touch. It'll feel just like Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I'm with it.
So we're going to get started here. We will start out with a little section called, what's that?
Elevator pitch.
Oh, yes. You want to do the elevator pitch first or you want to do 4 down first? Let's do 4 down first. Let's get started with 4 down first.
That's what he wants.
We'll start with a little segment we do here.
Yeah.
Dr. Jones called 4 down territory. We will call an audible. We will ask you 4 questions. You will give us 4 answers. These are basically just very, very, very important questions. The most important questions ever.
Your elections is on a razor's edge.
He's so silly.
I could tell.
Mikey, go ahead.
What? All right, fine. It is it's 1 o'clock in the morning. You can't sleep. You need a little snack. You tiptoe into the kitchen. What are you grabbing?
Ben and Jerry's chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream.
Good answer.
A benevolent company.
That's right.
Hey, let me do this. All right. Anna,
Okay.
You're up.
I've been thinking about this.
Okay.
The year is 19 something.
You are such a lawyer.
You're on the Titanic.
Oh my God.
You are on the Titanic.
Okay.
You have an opportunity to save one person.
Mm.
There are two people. One person is a baby. One person is an old person. Who are you picking?
Wow.
Oh my.
I know.
Oh my.
It's a quandary, right?
Oh, it is the baby.
Okay. Why the baby? Because the old person had a good life?
I mean, the old person's gonna be harder to carry out.
That's legitimate. That is legit.
Yes, the baby is lighter. It will be easier to swim with
it
a
was
baby
strategy,
than adult.
and that's what we need in a candidate. Strategy. Y'all saw that? Quick thinking.
I can't swim with me and this big
It was
old
life or
dude.
death, and it was life or death, and you made the decision that got people saved.
He could have got both of us drowned. Big old self, you better swim.
All right, I have so you're a physicist, so I have a somewhat physicist question for you here.
Oh God.
Oh
no.
The you win the governorship, and you have to go out of town. You're going to see Mickey for a couple days. Going to Disneyland, and your lieutenant governor just resigned. You need to pick one of these two physicists to be the governor of Arkansas for a day while you are gone. Do you pick Michio Kaku, I believe you say it, Kaku, or do you pick Neil deGrasse Tyson?
So I have an answer, but I'm gonna tell you, interestingly, that's all pretty much how Mike Huckabee became governor. We can talk about that later. It was on a fluke, right? So
I would like to know about that.
Yeah, we'll tell you that story. But I would pick Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yes,
he is a phenomenal storyteller, and there are issues that he could tell the story and convince people to move, even in that one day.
Oh, what a compliment!
Oh, the crowd was back.
I always call Neil deGrasse Tyson my real dad.
Oh, really?
He is. We believe that there is a DNA test out there somewhere that who is it? Not Maury.
Maury Povich.
Is it Maury? Is it Maury who does the DNA test? Yeah. Okay. You are the father, Neil deGrasse Tyson. I am your father. Pluto and Mikey Famine are my children.
No. We saw what happened to Pluto.
You're next.
No.
Jessica, you get to ask the final question. Any icebreaker question you want to ask?
All right. I love this question so much. Pick an ice cream flavor. Is it French vanilla or vanilla bean? There is a difference between these two flavors. Which one do you pick?
Solid.
Yeah, that's it depends on what I'm putting with it.
Ooh, that's such a good answer.
Good answer. He's good, y'all. He's good.
This is what I look for in a candidate.
You should be a politician.
Well, I might think about that.
Okay, so you are putting with it, Jessica, make it harder on him. What's he putting with it? What's the side items?
Apple pie.
Oh, apple pie, French vanilla.
I just want to make sure that you're thinking about these questions, Chris, because the voters of Arkansas,
they're going to see this.
This matters.
Yeah, it matters. It matters.
Okay, it matters. The vanilla bean people, they have to make a choice. Do I vote for Sarah Huckabee-Sanders, who might rip away my rights?
No.
But at least I have vanilla. At least I have my vanilla bean ice cream.
Well, look, I'm here to serve the French vanillas and the vanilla beans.
I was about to say he's going to get in front of a French bean crowd, and then he's not going to know what to do. He's going to be flip-flopping on the issues.
Yeah, don't you get the regular
Which
vanilla?
One goes with mint?
The regular vanilla people are losing their minds right now. So welcome into everyone in the chat. So we'll get another successful edition of Four Down Territory. So we'll get to your candidacy now. So you are running against Sarah Huckabee-Sanders, former White House press secretary under Donald Trump. Arkansas is generally thought to be a pretty red state. We had Natalie James on. She's actually going to be back. For those who know Natalie James, she's going to be back on the show on Sunday with Lauren and Brent. So we love Arkansas this week. It's National Arkansas Week here.
Hey, I love it. I love it.
But there is, Natalie calls it a non-voting state. So what is your strategy to engage the voters, and kind of tie that in with like what your elevator pitches as to why you, a physicist, an MIT graduate, doctor, and a physicist, why in the heck are you, not finding alternate universes and instead running for governor?
Well, yeah, I mean, who else, right? I am a 7th generation Arkansan. So the first and foremost, I am Arkansas through and through. 200 years of Arkansas in my blood. I am the Arkansas story of a kid who grew up eating honeysuckle, riding dirt bikes, and fighting grasshoppers. So and I can give you a lesson on how to eat honeysuckle. You got to pull the stem out ever so carefully to get as much honey as you can. And that's who I am. So part of the narrative is that I am Arkansas, and I would not have been able to take the journey that I took. Because keep in mind, my grandfather had a 3rd grade education and he drove a truck. But he would always tell me, and this is just something that many grandparents told their kids in Arkansas, get an education, because if you get it in your head, no one can take it out. And so I took that and I went on and got 5 degrees, 2 from Morehouse College, physics and math, and 3 from MIT, nuclear engineering, technology and policy, and a PhD in urban planning. So the first piece of the connection is that I am Arkansas, and I am who I am because of Arkansas.
I have one interjection. Did you save any degrees for anybody else going to any college that year?
I got 47 degrees.
I mean, can we spread the wealth with your degrees, sir? Can I have one of them?
Hey,
you have all of them. You have so many.
That's hilarious. Look, my wife has 3. She's
so between the 2 of y'all.
Yeah, and look, she's the original Dr. Jones. She's an ER doctor, and
come on, doctor.
And
doctors.
She's a combat veteran of the Air Force, and her military name, her combat name was DACA.
I love this for y'all. This is beautiful.
Y'all got more degrees in that house than Nick Leahy. 98 degrees.
But look,
joke for you there.
Oh, no.
Womp, womp, womp.
He took it there.
Nick Lachey. That's what you were trying to say.
I don't listen to the music, okay? So forgive me for not knowing how to pronounce you guys. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I offend you? Did I offend you, you 98 degrees snowflake up there?
Oh,
my goodness.
Also, shout out to the HBCU. I didn't get to say that right after you said it, but shout out. Love that.
Well,
love to hear that.
My wife went to Howard University, and then she went to Harvard.
She went to where next?
Howard and then Harvard Med.
I love y'all. I really love y'all. This is great.
You're running against Sarah Huckabee-Sanders, who has a degree, a Hayton degree, a PhD.
Not this.
There you go. What? There you go.
Not
from
this.
From the School of Hard Knocks.
Okay, Dutch, be honest.
No.
Dutch, be honest with me. Did you just get done watching Next Friday? Because your references are in exactly 2003.
No, I watched.
And I don't know why.
I did watch Friday about a few weeks ago, but I lied about Sarah Huckabee-Sanders. I don't want to defame her. Her actual degree is from the prestigious Prager University. So let's just move on from there. Where all the facts are always laid out perfectly.
Where is Prager?
What is Prager?
That is the question.
Well, but I'm being so serious. Like, where is that? Yeah. I'm assuming that's not in Arkansas.
Happy. That's amazing that you haven't heard of it. It's just this online, like, far right explainer video.
That's where she went to school?
It's not a real school.
Oh, see,
no, it's not a school.
Why did y'all just do that? Everybody just let me be on the outside of the joke.
Anna is so pure and naive.
is.
I never know the joke. I literally never like they always have jokes and I never get it. We had this whole podcast about birds not being real. I did not know that was a conspiracy. I did not know this was like a conspiracy theory that people really believe in. And I'm up here arguing with them, and they're like, "Oh, we don't believe this," and I'm like, "Why did we do this? Why? Tell me why? Why did we do this?"
It was satire. It was great, and it was great fun. It was one of the.
Read the room. Read the room.
Exactly.
It was not giving. Okay. In any event,
I
never know what's
actors.
Going on.
We sold it. We sold.
I'm thinking Sarah going to YouTube University. Like I don't know what's going on.
Anna's the only one that touches grass.
She did attend Washington Baptist.
Okay.
So we'll let the guests go first here. Jessica, when it comes to policy or strategy, wherever you want to go, what would be your first interview question for Dr. Jones here?
Yeah, what do you think just the voters want to see and need the most in Arkansas?
Yeah. Well, look, the need the most is a leader that has empathy and compassion for everyone. Yeah, that's what folks need the most. And I've literally traveled to all 75 counties of the state, and I'm on the second tour of all 75 counties. And right now we're walking an actual mile with groups of folks in every county. And in those conversations, yes, we talk about policy, and yes, the key to unlocking our potential is spreading PB&J, preschool broadband and jobs. And that matters. But underneath all of it, what I hear more than anything in their words and in their actions is that people need compassion and empathy in their leadership. That's what folks are yearning for. And as an ordained minister, I can bring that to the table too.
I love that. I love the PB&J.
I was about to say, how did y'all come up with
That's cool.
Yeah, that's y'all really nailed it on that.
And he said spread it too. He said spread the PB&J.
So you can't buy the bottle where the jelly comes out.
Night when I was no, you can't. No, you got to spread it.
No goobers.
When I was eating the ice cream.
What was that stuff called?
Goobers.
Yes. No, that's not. Was it goobers?
Yeah. That with the peanut butter and the jelly in the same jar. Yeah.
The stripes.
Yes. Yeah. It looked like Aquafresh toothpaste, except with peanut butter and jelly colors.
You know, the sad thing is that was not peanut nor jelly inside there. It's the worst tasting stuff. But for whatever reason, I told my mom I loved it, and I ate that for years.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm embarrassed.
It got all mixed up at the end.
How are you gonna scoop it out and keep the stripes? You can't. Your sandwich never looks like the commercial.
What you got to do?
Sadness.
What you got to do is you got to pull the whole thing out and then you slice it.
Right. That's where Uncrustables came from. That's the same stuff in there, man.
Chris is like,
I'm confused now.
See, all right, turn to Anna. You have the next question. We go ladies first round here.
So my question is, if elected, what would be the first thing on your list of things to do, and why is it the first thing on your list of things to do?
Yeah, so the first set of things I'll tell you is really focusing on how we spread PB&J across the state. In Arkansas, there are too many regions that don't have access to high quality education starting with pre-K, solid infrastructure. We have roads and bridges that are falling apart. Our health infrastructure, water infrastructure is falling apart. Or economic development. There are places where the median income is $10,000. So that's a part of it. And more equally important, if not more important, is resetting the table, the decision-making table. Because I believe the people most impacted by decisions need to be at the table when decisions are made. And so resetting, right now, there are a small group of people that all look alike that make the decisions for everyone. And just by resetting the table, you change the outcomes that you'll get.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question, but it is going to be a question from Twitter. This is from Furious Citizen on Twitter. They asked to ask. I guess they're a QAnon. No, I'm just kidding. The actual question is a legit question. I'm just messing with you. How do you plan to politically engage an opponent who does not view you as a significant significant threat in our backward red state. I'm sure you don't share that statement with Furious Citizen, but nonetheless, and is willing to say anything at all if it advances her interest. She has reason for confidence, even if she isn't experienced, ethical, or charming. Thank you. Then there's some compliments there. So, but what do you think of that question? How do you beat someone who doesn't even have the testicular fortitude, as Trump would say, to debate you? I mean, I think that's a legitimate concern.
It's a very legitimate question and a legitimate concern. And, we beat her by amplifying the message from the ground up. You're starting to hear it, right? Because it's a disrespect. And one of the things about Arkansas, and you say what you will about us, Arkansans believe in working hard, and they believe in earning your keep. So whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever, the general tenor is you got to work and earn your keep. That message and her contrast to that message is starting to resonate with everyone across circles. And so you just amplify that and you continue to call her out. She will have to show up in debate. She'll try to avoid it, but the structures of the grassroots structures, the political structures are not going to let her not do it.
I feel like I missed something. So she just said she's not doing it. Is that what I'm hearing?
She's ignoring the race. She's assuming that she's already won. She's not showing up she's not even interviewing at local folks. You go to a local news anchor and they'll say, she literally told them, you're only one person. Why should I travel all this way to talk to you?
Oh.
So, right. Her words. Yeah. Her team's words. So, that starts to build.
Right.
And folks start to feel that. Versus me, I show up everywhere. I've spoken to very, very quote unquote Trump red areas. Harrison, Arkansas, for example. It used to be a sundown town. It was the birthplace of the Klan in Arkansas, and the Klan's still there. Well, we held a meet and greet in Harrison, and we talked to folks, and we engaged them, and it was great. Now, everyone doesn't leave agreeing with me, but yet we win over a whole lot of people. And people want that direct engagement. They want to know that I'm not afraid to engage with someone who thinks differently or believes differently. So people are starting to call her out more.
Do you think, real quick before Mikey goes, do you think that when you go to those deep red places, obviously these people get their news from, it's a very, very narrow bandwidth from which they're willing to absorb any information, right? And that's part of the issue. But when you leave those situations, do you feel like there's been any real progress made, even with just individuals or the group at large? Like, talk about an instance of that, if you could.
Yeah. So I met a guy named Jim in Louisville, South Arkansas, in Lafayette County. And I was at a restaurant, Sterling's Place. Great catfish, by the way. Jessica, when you come back through, make sure you hit up Sterling's Place. And there was a guy, plaid shirt, cut off, had a hat on in the restaurant. You look at him and you say, look, there's no way he's going to vote for a Democrat. And he's surely not going to vote for a black man. So I went over to him. I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, hey, I'm Chris Jones. I'm running for governor. And we started to talk. Within about a minute, he said, look, I just want my asphalt fixed. So we talked about the B and PB&J infrastructure. And we spent about 2 or 3 more minutes talking about it. And by the end, he said, you know what? I like you. I think you got my support. Now, he started out with a little standoffish, but by engaging him on the things that matter to him, then we were able to win him over. So it's just about direct engagement. I've always believed that if you give Arkansans a chance, they will give you a chance. And that's what's been the tenor of our campaign.
So I live in the great state of Illinois, known for its infrastructure windfall and its dedication to not having our governors go to jail.
Which always fails.
We almost get it every time.
Yeah.
As far as like transparency with your campaign and when you get into office, what kind of not so much promises, but like what kind of administration do you want to run so that people can feel confident in the decisions that you're making with the information you're given and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll continue to do what we do now. You know, it's interesting. I cannot hear out of my right ear, even though I have the earpiece in. It's useless. It doesn't matter. I've never been able to hear out of my right ear. But
my son has that unilateral hearing loss.
Yeah, and there are actually a lot of folks who have it, and you would never know. But it's caused me to have to lean into listening, and which means I had to practice the habit of listening and hearing folks. That's a part of our campaign, and through listening and actually being willing to show up everywhere. Right now, people are able to ask the tough questions and get to what's behind what they might see on the surface, and we will do the same in the administration. Making space for folks and bringing them into the table. I talked about the inclusive table and showing up where they are.
Well, you can't beat that. So when it comes to like the key issues and obviously I think that Democrats need to do a better job of messaging. That's one of the things I say all the time is the Democratic Party certainly needs to get a new marketing manager. I am available if interested. But the key issues that I think that at least for the progressive side that we key on is obviously getting money out of politics, universal health care, living wage, et cetera. Of those three right there, which is the easiest pill to swallow for the folks in Arkansas?
That's a tough question. I think between healthcare, particularly because our rural hospitals are at risk of closing. My mom had a stroke, and she just happened to be in Little Rock, the big city, when she had it, because she was at my daughter's violin concert. But I saw her face droop, and I saw her speech slur. We were able to get her to a hospital within 5 minutes. If she had been in her hometown of Stevens or my dad's hometown of Hughes, she might not be with us right now. And now she's fine. So, and part of that is because our hospital system is not at a par that can serve all Arkansans. So I would believe, and Arkansas was actually the only southern state that passed healthcare expansion. So the citizens believe in that. And then I would say the second thing would be minimum wage, a conversation around that. We were maybe 2 or 3 cycles ago, as a ballot initiative, we passed a minimum wage increase in Arkansas. It won't go through the legislature. That's why when Natalie talks about, and I talk about Arkansas not being a red state, but a non-voting state, when Arkansans show up and vote, we actually pass things that tend to be more progressive.
So wait, you passed a ballot initiative, and then the legislator is able to still shoot that down?
Well, they have been doing things to roll it back, like putting things in place to allow areas to not have to rise to the level of that minimum wage, and they're still actively doing that.
I don't understand why. When the electric company raises the rates, people don't lose their mind, but God forbid a person makes $1 more an hour.
Yeah. Look, I'll give you another example. We have a $1.6 billion surplus right now. 1.6 billion. And what's on the table now, what should be on the table now, are raises for our teachers. Arkansas teachers make a minimum, the minimum for Arkansas teachers is $36,000. That's lower than every other state around in our surrounding area. So I recently proposed that we raise it to $46,000, which then puts us in strong competition with the surrounding states. The legislature is calling a special session to figure out how to spend the $1.6 billion, and they are signaling that they won't even bring that issue up as a conversation piece.
Well, then what's the point of having a surplus?
Things that make you go,
Things that make you go,
Oh, I knew it was coming. I was like, he's going to dance. He's going to dance. It's 90s.
I'm going to shoot it back over to Jessica and Anna here, but I just want to ask one real quick question, because I was at church the other day, and I know on your website, sir, it says, one of your key points there is faith. And so I don't want to presume what you know or believe as far as like your religion and where you go there. You can share that if you want to. But when I was at church, and I don't really care for the church that I go to, it's way too Pentecostally for me, but they are literally having a meeting right now as we sit here, which I would have loved to have gone to promote people within the church running for the school boards. Like there is a big movement to take over school boards because of the fear of, women, drag queens reading to kids and CRT and that sort of stuff. Is that I take it that's a huge issue down there, but especially when it comes to a church setting, like what's your message when it comes to those two things? With the specter, the boogeyman of CRT and of, boys playing girls sports and all this type of stuff. Like, how do you overcome those culture war issues?
Yeah, it is playing out. And that's the battlefield that Sarah wants to fight on. That's what she wants to pull us towards. But look, as an ordained minister, and I grew up in the church, I'm the son of two preachers. You can't love your neighbor when you're discriminating against them. You can't love your neighbor when you're actively passing bills that are targeted towards them and being mean. You can't love yourself if you don't understand your own history and the journey that you took to get here. And as someone whose family has been in Arkansas for over 200 years, that hasn't included 200 glossy, happy, fun years. It has included real challenging parts. And so I talk about the fact that both as a minister and as an engineer, part of what I have been trained to do is look at the past and learn from the past so we can make better experiments now and so that we can engage with each other in a more loving and caring, neighborly way now. That's the message I send. And then we talk about what matters to folks as they're sitting at the kitchen table.
I appreciate that. Ladies?
Yeah, thanks for that question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. Oh, sorry, Jessica. Before I go, did you want to jump in?
Go ahead. I'll go after you.
Okay. I just wanted to ask how if at all, how does your background in science help you, and how can you really elevate the sciences in Arkansas, having such an expansive range of knowledge about so many things that will matter, I guess, from all the way from physics to, assuming climate change and changes that Arkansas will have to make to address those potential issues.
Yeah, so my background is in direct relation with a lot of the challenges that we face now. What I will say that for starters, having studied as a physicist, I know that there's far more that I don't know than that I do know. And so it's always about how do you bring people to the table who have the knowledge that the rest of us don't have. And now with that framing, I do understand the energy issues that we face. I'm a nuclear engineer. I've done work in energy efficiency and renewable generation. I also understand large scale systems. I mean, we need broadband across our state. My PhD was studying the Tennessee Valley Authority, which spread electricity across multiple states. I understand how social dynamics interact with the physical and built world and environment as an urban planner. Those things are critically important when you talk about how do you bridge the rural-urban divide? How do you make sure that in rural areas that don't have the same infrastructure or the infrastructure isn't built well anymore, like how do you get resources there in a way that lifts everyone up? My background gives me enough to ask the right questions and to know who to bring to the table. And that's what I share with folks. And they're surprised when they can have a conversation with me and I know what questions to ask. I don't know all the answers, but knowing what questions to ask makes the conservative who is a Republican because they believe that the business interest is better suited for Republicans. When I begin to ask questions, they understand that, these questions are asked in such a way that he gets the economy. And that brings people in. And I'll say to your question too, Arkansans, believe it or not, are scientists. We're the natural state. We're an agricultural state. And we've been with the land and with nature forever. And that's what I appeal to. I appeal to who we are and what we've done. And as scientists, as farmers, as agricultural folks, there are lessons that we learn. And back to Duchess' question, we have to study to understand the history in order to get where we need to go.
Thank you. That was helpful.
Yeah, thanks.
So this is not so much a question as much as I'd like your thoughts on something I'm noticing in how our politics are changing. So running for governor is super different from running for Congress, where you go on to make legislation. When you're running for governor, you've got to govern, like you've got to get things done. You're not just writing laws. You're not just being elected because people agree with your values. They have to trust you to get things done. And it feels like we're in this moment where so many people, it's a question up in the air whether or not the government should do anything at all, right? The Supreme Court's passing legislation about, whether or not the EPA can regulate fossil fuel emissions. So it is a question in the United States whether or not the government should do anything, but many people feel that it's very real, that they want to see, the money that they make and the money they pay in taxes, which at the state and local level, their taxes are directly what is paying for their public goods, unless federal funds are appropriated. But in many times, people are working for that money. They want to see it go towards things that benefit them. But for so many people, they've kind of given up on government as a whole. And so what do you want to see change in Arkansas, or what do you think needs to change so that people believe in government again and believe that actually, like, this country is worth fighting for and not something to just give up on?
Yeah, I love that question.
Great question.
It is. Your question takes clearly and your question takes me back to when I was 8 years old. My dad took me, and a lot happened when I was 8. That was the year of the Challenger accident, and so I studied NASA, and that's what made me want to go on and go to MIT because of Ron McNair and go to NASA, and I did work at NASA. But something else happened when I was 8. My dad took me to the mall in Little Rock from my hometown of Pine Bluff, 45 minutes away. And we were in the mall, and I bumped into then Governor Bill Clinton. And in that interaction, I felt like he saw me, he listened to me, and I felt heard and engaged. I felt that there was a personal connection to me. So for me as an 8-year-old, I asked my dad, well, what does he do? And he said, he's a governor. And I said, what's a governor? He said, go look it up. So we had to go home to the Encyclopedia Britannica because we didn't have Google. And I found out that a governor could solve problems. And as an engineer, as a young scientist who asked questions and liked to solve things, that intrigued me. But also found out that a governor could make a difference in people's lives. So at the age of 8, I said, I want to one day come back and serve as governor of Arkansas. Because at the time, that interaction made me feel like government mattered and government cared and government acted. And so when I go out, it's really about, that's why I've traveled to all 75 counties, and I'm going back to all 75 again to show folks, from the little kid to the literally a 91-year-old woman walked with us on one of our last walks, to show them that government is the people, and we can care about each other, and we can treat each other like neighbors, and we can actually solve problems.
Yep. Well said. This just real quick, we have a question from the chat, but this fear of government is because corporations run the freaking government, and they have for the last, I don't know, 250 years in this country, since they started giving out money to the freaking railroads to even move west in the first place. I can't stand when people don't know their damn history. So I apologize for my rant here, but like, it's you give the only people who are trying to give the power back to the people within government, I guess it's us. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. But we do have a question here from the chat. Sorry, I get irritated about that one, and this is a great question from Big Striker. Do you support PUOC financing? I'm guessing he's talking about
it's public finance. Yeah, he can't type well.
Okay, I was thinking that might be some acronym for public election financing, I believe is what he's talking about here in your state.
Do I support it? We don't have it here.
No, is that something that you would be in support of?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are too many barriers to entry for good folks who want to be a part of the process. I've never run for office myself, and in fact, That's one of the reasons people say and believe that Sarah will win. And that's one of the reasons they told me I shouldn't get in the race in the first place. I'm not a multi-millionaire. Look, I grew up with patches in my clothes, and I know what it's like for cars to be repossessed. We had a lot of love, but didn't have a lot of material things. So I didn't grow up with a name that was big or a trust fund. And without those things, then it's hard to get into politics.
Yeah.
And yet, I do believe that until we make changes to how politics is financed and elections are financed, I do believe we can change the model. And we're changing the model by really going grassroots and really saying, like, look, we don't have big folks coming in and dropping money on us, but some 85 to 90% of our donors are from Arkansas. And they're small dollar donors. And they're folks who literally will walk into our office and say, here's $5, here's $10. I'm on fixed income, but I support this campaign. And that's what matters. I had kids saying, I want to donate to your campaign, because that's changing the model until we can create a structure that actually opens the door for folks to enter politics. Because to your point, and going back to what I said earlier, there are a small group of people who make all the decisions that impact all of us. And the way to get to that small table is you have to have money or some access to power. And that needs to change.
Yeah. And especially for people of my age, I don't know, I'm in my mid 30s now, but it is very disillusioning. Like Jessica was saying, like, you kind of look out at the landscape and it's like, whoo, Canada is how far from here? I could probably sneak over at night and they'll have to deport me. But like, we're almost at that point, or me and some of my friends, we're almost at the point where we're ready to bail. So for younger people, like what else is there for younger people to, like, you know what I'm saying? What's around the corner for them?
Well, I think there's a crop of folks from the Gen Xers down that have stepped up and are stepping up. You look at a Wes Moore in Maryland, who's running for governor of Maryland, and he'll likely win the Democratic nomination. He hasn't been in politics before. Stacey Abrams has been in politics before, but yet she's changing the structure of the model. You look at a Joe Cunningham in North Carolina. So there are people that are stepping up. Now, you might not agree with all of their politics. I don't agree with myself all the time. But there's a different generation that's saying, I want to change how people engage with politics. And I think, to me, that gives me hope. It gives me hope when they're young kids that are walking around holding up signs and going and knocking on doors. It gives me hope when my daughter says, yeah, without us telling her to say this. She tells her friends, you can attend the election night party if you show me proof that your parents voted for my dad. I died laughing. Oh, it was so funny. But what she's saying is that they need to be engaged in the political process. And that's what's important. So I'm hopeful.
You guys have Souls to the Polls in Arkansas. I believe I know that's more of a Georgia thing,
it's more of a Georgia. We won't be able to do it on Sundays, but we are working with a network of churches and fraternities and sororities to make sure that in November we're getting buses and cars and dragging people. Because for us, it's the 1 million folks who did not show up last cycle, but could have, that we have to drag to the polls. And one thing I'll say is I'll stop at Starbucks and Subway and gas stations, and everywhere we go, we're stopping and saying, are you registered to vote? And if not, here's a voter registration form. Let's go.
Love that.
Sorry about that, honey.
All good. I wanted to ask, you kind of talked about this, like just turning people out to vote. And I know historically in every state pretty much where there's a lot of obstructionism and whatnot going on, what issues are you seeing in Arkansas with people being able or their access to voting being limited? And how are you and your campaign working to try to overcome those issues, especially to increase voter turnout, especially since you were saying that Arkansas is not necessarily a red state, but just a non-voting state, or maybe just lack of access to voting?
Yeah. mean, there's certainly barriers like closing polling locations, which is why we need to make sure we have transportation to the polls for folks who otherwise might have a challenge. There's an absentee ballot rejection, which is something that's challenging. So we're telling people make sure you come home and vote in person to the extent that you can. There's a lack of opening the door and sharing information to people who are ex-felons. And we have a huge ex-felon population, and they don't realize that they can have their voting rights restored. So one of the things I did to get to different populations, and I'm doing, is I did a ride along with a sanitation worker. And then we walked around the landfill. And then we went to around lunchtime when they were all gathered, and I talked with them. We registered probably 15 folks right there. No, 25 people right there. Half of them were ex-felons who didn't realize they could have their voting rights restored.
Wow.
So we're going in these places and engaging them directly.
And I just have a follow-up to that.
Yeah.
Hopefully when you become governor, is there anything that you could do to try to codify or break down some of those barriers in a way that is lasting and is not just, as a politician, these people came out for you, but obviously we want these people to be able to come out for other folks who are doing some of the good work that you're doing?
Yeah, appreciate that question, because it reminds me of why I got in the race now, and what I believe success looks like. One of my best friends said, "What does success look like?" I said, number one, it is building an infrastructure, and this is to your point, an infrastructure that outlasts us. Now, for voting, that includes we should have mobile registration units that are literally driving around to different places and registering people on the spot. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to do that. The Secretary of State should not be able to do that. We should have clear, transparent information in multiple languages, including sign languages, including access in Braille, and have it everywhere. These are easy things that we can do without changing any legislation at all. The second thing that was important to me was branding. Like how people think about Arkansas, how people think about a Black family in Arkansas, how people think about a Black male in Arkansas. And so that was important. And the third piece of success for us was winning. We wanted to get to 50+1. And I've always said that we can control number one and number two, and we can influence number three. So our effort has always been on making sure that we are putting a message out that resonates across the board, and making sure that we're building an infrastructure that outlasts even this campaign. That will set us up to win the race.
Thank you.
One more thing real quick, and didn't really dawn on me until now. So with everyone being like the voting numbers being so low, and with all these locations for voting closing, that's people, these are your rights. Like that's your right to vote, y'all. Like you are being denied. So come on, get up. Get on up. Come on. Get up.
We'll give our other guests the last question for you here, because I know you got to go, and then after that you can let people know how to support you, because obviously it's a big state, you got to get around it. But just real quick before Jessica goes, have the Clintons helped you at all? I mean, they're from Arkansas, right? Like, are they involved in this at all? I know Bill sent a tweet, but like, I don't even know if Hillary would be a help or not. You don't have to answer that question. But like, have they engaged at all with your campaign?
Yeah, so there's sort of two factors, right? One, it's them as a unit and as individuals, and two, it's their folks, right? The machines that they built, the old Clintonites that know where the voting populations are and know how to get out. We've certainly engaged their machine and the people that have been with the Clintons from the beginning, that drove them around when they were running, the Arkansas Travelers. So we're actively engaging that group, and they're involved. The unit and the individuals, I am having conversations with President Clinton and getting advice and wisdom from him, counsel on different really hot topic issues. I was able to share the story of the fact that the reason I'm running is because I met him when I was 8 years old. Now, how we engage them in a deeper way is something that will transpire over time. So stay tuned.
Okay. Jessica, you have the floor.
All right. Yeah, this campaign sounds very grassroots, which is great. I come from, grassroots politics before I started working in media, and I'm hearing a lot of similarities between like Iowa and Arkansas. I was in Iowa during the caucuses in 2020, and just talking to voters door to door and hearing, the typical working class American say, I don't want my taxes to go up. I don't want people to get stuff for free. I believe, you should work hard for the things that you get. And there's a common misunderstanding that what progressives are fighting for is free handouts from the government for everyone. When it's really not that. It's really, getting your money's worth, the money back that you put in for those public goods. And what people on the right are doing is, taking those public goods away so that they can then be commodified, and you get them, at a much higher price from corporations. And it's so hard to spread that message, especially, in working class turf. It's like where I grew up. Like I once believed those things too. So how are you finding spreading that message in a grassroots way is going?
Yeah, no, the way you frame the question is spot on. And so I actually learned from two races. I learned a lot from two races. One was Governor Deval Patrick's race in Massachusetts. That's when I really first cut my teeth in grassroots politics and kind of on the ground direct engagement. And two was Governor Charlie Baker's race in Massachusetts. That's where, really getting across the party line and engaging people directly in a different way. He's a Republican governor who directly engaged with Democrats in ways that hadn't been seen previously. So when I go out, one of the things that I keep in mind is to always ask myself the question, what kind of conversation am I having? Because a lot of times, as Democrats, as progressives, someone will engage with someone and we think we're having a fact-based conversation. And so when they say something that is clearly antithetical to all fact and truth, we want to go in. But in actuality, in that moment, a lot of times we're having an ideological conversation. And so I'm very mindful of, am I having a fact-based conversation? Am I having an experiential conversation? Or am I having an ideological conversation? And just understanding the conversations that I'm having allows me to keep the door open long enough to either move them up the ladder of support or at least not have them go down the ladder. And I've always found that by doing that, I can tend to win people over, because I'm not going to convince everyone to believe everything that I believe, but I can convince them to keep their minds open and continue the conversation. So I want to know if I'm when I go to these deep red areas and I talk to the gyms and I talk to folks who literally look me in the face and say, and this is true. One lady told me, I will never vote for a Democrat, ever. And she was serious. Within a minute and a half, she said, Trump is the best thing ever. If he was a Democrat, I'd vote for him. So my science mind, it was like, what? Okay. But I was having an ideological conversation. And so I kept it open. And by the end, she's laughing and joking. Now, will she vote for me? Who knows? But that's a seed that's planted that'll then come around. Now, and when last thing I'll say on that is that when somebody says, oh, he's a baby-eating, Baal-worshiping socialist Democrat, she'll think to herself, that's not what I experienced when I engaged with him. We talked about issues that matter to me. And that's helpful. That's how you win in Arkansas.
Molech is the who we're worshiping. That's I'm glad to hear all that.
Are you talking about Modoc?
Yeah, no, Molech from the Bible. Anyway, that is the one thing that because I engage conservatives a lot, and I think that's the one thing where usually my goal is just to make sure that they realize that we're not kooks, because we're positioned as being kooks when, let's be frank, they're the kooks, generally speaking. Not, I'm not trying, this is my family that I'm talking about here. So I get to do that, and it's like, that's the part that I hope is that people can say, well, maybe what I'm hearing on OAN is not completely accurate.
Right.
So as we let you go, we know we're over on time, so we appreciate that.
Appreciate you all.
Let us know. So one question, because I'm a liar, and I'm gonna ask you one more question. One
I
question.
knew it. I knew it.
And we want you to tell us, how you can support you. But after you tell us all of your socials and how we can support you, I want the coolest thing you ever learned in your study, in your studies at MIT as a physicist. So so just share that quick little story with us as you depart.
You would ask that question. There's so many cool things. But so look, folks can find me. They can follow me on Jones for AR. Our website is chrisforgovernor.com, chrisforgovernor.com. Everything's on there. You can find out our policy positions and more about who I am. You can follow us on social media at Jones for AR. We certainly need donations because this campaign is fueled by donations. We also need folks who are willing to phone bank and text bank and come to Arkansas, Jessica, on your next drive across the coast. You can stop and knock on doors. We are engaging with, on average, about 100,000 Arkansans a week between door knocking, text banking, phone banking, which is unheard of here. But we're doing that because we want to get out there and speak to folks. So please help us out, join in, amplify our message. Spread the word. There's something that you like about what I said or what we're saying. Tell any and everyone. And certainly, if you have family, friends, enemies, cousins, whoever in Arkansas, make sure they're voting Chris Jones for governor come November. And the coolest thing, that's a hard question because there are a lot of cool things at MIT. And if when you go visit, you'll see that. But I'll say it's my research project. The first one I did when as a nuclear engineer, and I was studying nuclear fusion, and it's what fusion is. It's a hot, dense plasma. So think about the sun. The sun is a big ball of plasma, a big ball of nuclear fusion. So we were creating nuclear fusion by levitating a half-ton magnet in midair, and it was think about a donut that gets levitated, floated in midair. And it weighed a half a ton. That was one of the coolest things that I was ever able to work with ever.
Confirmed he has superpowers.
Yeah, I have like 7 million more questions for you. I want to ask you about energy, all types of stuff, man. So look, we would love to have you back and just geek out. But
can I say one other thing?
Yeah.
Since I brought up fusion.
You can say 7 other things. It's your show.
Since I brought up fusion, right?
I'm here for it.
There's the connection is there. When I think about our political world, and this kind of gets at your question, Jessica, a little bit, and the political world we engage in, we're in a world that's similar to nuclear fission. Nuclear fission is the splitting of atoms, and when you split an atom, energy is released. Sarah is trafficking in the politics of nuclear fission. The more we divide, they take that energy and they use that energy to divide some more. Right. That's what's been happening. Nuclear fusion is the combining of atoms. And when you bring atoms together, energy is also released. What I love about nuclear fusion is that it's far more powerful than nuclear fission. So we're about the politics of nuclear fusion, which is also why the story is pretty cool for me. My experience.
And you're creating something new.
See? Look.
See?
I love that we just got a science lesson real quick because I'm like, it's giving vocab words, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, this stuff is coming back to me. Not that I ever really knew it, but it makes sense when you say it.
It's in there. It's in there.
Meanwhile, Mikey DeGrasse Tyson's over here until we hit the Planck's length. And then they get the black hole.
Yep. Oh, yeah, we'd love to have you back.
Space telescope. Let's talk about that when I come.
Oh
back.
My God, we got to have you back on the show, but we know that you got to roll. There's so much stuff that I want to geek out with you about, but if it's your first time listening to our show, patreon.com/Dig on America. Subscribe on Twitch or follow us on Twitter at Dig on America. Sub on YouTube if you want, youtube.com/Dig on America. We will see you again. Chris, thank you very much. You can roll out. We will see you guys.
So polite.
Go away, Mikey. Start the show.
Hey,
Thank
and
you
by the
so
way,
much.
thanks for being on, Chris.
you.
And
Yeah, thank
pick it
you.
bounce on out of here.
You ain't got to go home, but you.
You can't just Martin the guests off the show. Get your stuff.
God, you're impossible.
Thanks, Chris.